Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenge of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and joining me this evening is Maddie and a very different looking Ryan. How are you, gents?
I've been much better, I will be honest. It is a shit show over in the UK, and we have just had an absolute grinch of a move by the Prime Minister that has shat Christmas plans completely.
As an aficionado of the Grinch now, because my little fella loves the Grinch more than he probably loves Santa Claus, the Grinch actually comes good in the end. He hates Christmas, then he likes Christmas. So, you never know. Bojo might, pull the Swifty again on the 24th. We can all live in hope.
Well, three days ago, he did say that it would be inhumane to touch Christmas. And then last night, he announced that we're all now in a lockdown, including Christmas. So maybe he'll flip again, because that's just typically British. Sorry for anyone who is listening to us from the British nationality.
Well, we'll go to Maddie first and see how Maddie's weekend was, and we'll come back to the London thing and what the hell you've done with yourself. People obviously can't see we're a podcast, so people can't see what's happened, but we can talk our way through it after we hear Maddie's how his weekend's gone.
A little bit different to Ryan's. It was pretty good, to be honest.
You also need to get a permit to get back into your state.
We did, yeah. So we ducked across the border on Friday.
To dirty New South Wales?
Dirty New South Wales, a place called Kingscliff. So a nice little getaway there. A bit of swimming and a bit of beach. Anyway, and then I think last night they announced, or yesterday afternoon, that they were going to be bringing some restrictions in here just due to what's happening on the central coast of New South Wales and Greater Sydney. And that's anybody returning would need to have a border declaration. So it was a pretty easy process. Just had to jump online, fill out some details, and then just get the hotel resort to print it out. But so we got back fine. There was no real change in terms of lining up at a border closure. But there now have been some things this afternoon coming out saying that there will be border closures, I think from Tuesday midnight for New South Wales people coming in. So, I mean, we got in well in time, but yeah, lucky we weren't.
Yeah, I think Queensland, Victoria, and South Australia all basically introduced the same rules, which were if you were coming back from your home, if you're coming back to your home state from New South Wales, you had until I think it was midnight on Monday to get back. Otherwise, you'd have to go into hotel quarantine if you'd been to one of those locations. But yeah, if you're coming from Greater Sydney, that you will be sent to hotel quarantine. There was a case on I think it was Saturday morning of two minors who are coming down, whether it's a broken family or coming down to visit mum or dad, and they were unaccompanied minors on the plane from the Northern Beaches, and they're now going to be spending Christmas in hotel quarantine with their carer down in Melbourne. So,
whoa,
yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore. So, we don't even have it half as bad as obviously what's happening in London, and Ryan will touch on that in a moment. But it's just probably the worst timing. I think it's probably the same thing in London. It's just the timing of this happening in Australia, albeit really only affecting New South Wales at the moment. That's the hard bit to take. Like, we've all had a shit year, and for it to happen just before Christmas that's probably the most bitter pill of the whole year.
Yeah, it's just another kick in the guts, isn't it? Really, for a lot of people. So
Mr. Ebert, London restrictions, Tier 4, what does that actually mean? Because you've been in Tier 4 before, haven't you? Or you haven't?
Yeah, so Tier 4 is a very different wording way of basically saying full-scale lockdown. So we are in a full-scale lockdown. In that we've got a travel ban across the UK. We've got, what else do we have? We've got essential shops only, so supermarkets and that's it, nothing else. Confined to the wonderful four walls of your own house, and that includes Christmas. As of midnight last night, that came into play. We all found out at 4:30 p.m. on Saturday, and that was 3 days after. So we were obviously we're in this thing called Tier 3, which is a pretty reasonable lockdown as it is, but we were kind of all getting a reprieve between the 23rd and the 27th. to kind of have a bit of a break. You could see, I think, one or two other household kind of things for family catch-ups. But all of that has just been pulled from under the rug now.
Well, obviously your Christmas is going to look significantly different to last year when you're in Australia. But how's it changed to what you were planning in London? Because I know my Christmas, I feel really lucky that my Christmas is going to be pretty much like most other Christmases. Like we don't have a family of over 30 where we can't catch up in the same house. I assume Maddie's Christmas is going to be pretty similar to normal as well. Your Christmas is going to be different to last year because you're international. But how's it changed in the last month or two, or even in the last, how's it changed today compared to 2 days ago?
Yeah, that would be the biggest change, because so the Christmas here was always, we were not going to go back to Oz. So we weren't going to go back home or anything like that. We were probably going to go and travel somewhere. So we might have traveled internationally or something. When that got pulled, what we did do is on the 24th, we were catching a train up to Cambridge. And we were just going to go sit in Cambridge for that little window period that we had. Sit there and basically just walk along the river, sit by a roaring fireplace, and kind of forget the world for a couple of days with a very good glass of red wine. That was all intentions of plan until 10 hours ago. And 10 hours ago, that has literally been squashed. So now it is the biggest fear that I had was when we booked the whole Cambridge thing. I just said, I don't care what we do for Christmas. I just do not want to be waking up in this one-bedroom apartment in inner city London that I've spent the year in for Christmas. And that has become a very stark reality, unfortunately, for us over here in the UK.
I really feel for you, mate, because, obviously it's not how you planned your Christmas to be, and, having the rug pulled out of you, even your most basic plan in the last 10 hours it's just balls. It's just a terrible situation to find yourself in, and for everyone in London to find themselves in as well. And you saw pictures this morning, or this nighttime Melbourne time, of people flooding the London train stations to actually vacate London to go X and Y places because it's essentially their last chance to get out as well. So it's just a crazy time. But you've done something in the last 10 hours.
Yes.
So what have you done in the last 10 hours to, I guess, wipe the slate clean, so to speak? What have you done?
Yeah, so yesterday, Saturday, the 19th of December, changed from being the day that we got put into lockdown to the day that I completely shaved my head. So at least changed the story a little bit, and took back a little bit of control. And it was something I was booked in to do on Monday coming, but because obviously Boris made the announcements and said they come into effect as of midnight. So I called up their hairdressing place and they were like, yep, you can come in after they closed. They were pretty much happy to give me a haircut. And then when I went in there, I thought I would never, ever do this in my life, because anybody who has seen me knows that I'm very lucky to still have a very thick, full head of nice blonde hair. But yeah, I told him to shave the whole thing off. And it sort of came about from reading something about what can you do in this time, like especially when everything's taken out of your control, to take back some control, and how could you conquer a fear? And for me, I've got this big fear of going bald. So I was like, well, I can, one, control that. Two, I'm stuck in lockdown anyway, so I'm not seeing anyone. And three, it also coincides with 10 years ago, I had a melanoma cut out of my leg, and avoided, as a result of that being successful, avoided going down chemotherapy. So I would have been obviously bald if I went down that path. So yeah, I just kind of leaned into it and shaved it all off.
You do look very different. When you came online, it was certainly different, but I've already adapted to it. It looks good.
Well, that's good.
Surprisingly,
it doesn't look as bad as I thought it would.
What does TK think? Because these are always important questions. Was she consulted?
They are. She was consulted. She was, when I kind of made my way to the hairdressers, she was still 50-50 whether I'd actually come through with it. But she basically was saying that I probably would have been disappointed with myself if I came back and hadn't done it, because it's like I thought of doing it and sort of conquering a fear as per se. And she says it doesn't look bad. It actually looks quite good.
Does she prefer that over the ISO beer that you had going earlier this year?
I think she probably does prefer it over the massive beard that I had going. But she did say that she's like, you definitely don't look cute and baby-faced anymore. You look much more masculine without hair.
It's true. You certainly, it's a different look. You look like an art Englishman.
Yeah, I look like I probably could hold my own in a fair few bar fights than a blonde-haired pretty boy anymore, which is interesting.
As long as you're socially distanced in those bar fights, mate, you'll be all right. What does Christmas look like for you, like for this year, Matt? Is it fairly similar to previous years? Has it been impacted? Will it be impacted? What does it look like?
So I was just looking that up before when you mentioned about groups down in Victoria. We can have up to 50 in a house at the moment.
50. I wouldn't even have 50 people invite to Christmas.
Well, no, I don't have 50 either. But Christmas Day, we'll shoot over to my brother's house for lunch. And then Christmas Day night, we're going to have Kim's family again, as we did last year. And there's about 35. So I was a bit worried when you said that, but we're up to 50. So we're okay. But yeah, it's pretty much going to look exactly like it did last year. So no real change there.
Yeah.
Which is good for the kids. I mean.
Yeah, I guess it's the same down here in Victoria, in that, like we always have the thing like between, there's always the family politics stuff, which is just bullshit sort of stuff. And it's going to be probably the same this year. Like my cousin and my grandma, they don't really get on. I can just see that, it's already been flagged that there might be an issue. I'm like, if there's an issue, I'm just going to leave, because it's been such an awful 2020. I just need to sit through a family function of just bullshit. So, like, despite
surely this year people would just go, how quickly our world can change, how quickly you can lose something and you can lose people in your life. Like, just kind of get over it.
Yeah, I'd love to think that's the case, Ryan, but I'm a pessimist for this sort of stuff. I think people are just always going to be a little bit dickish, and just not just my family, like as a whole. Like I think we've proven this year that people have caused a lot of this problem by not complying with real rules, maybe not doing the right thing all the time, trying to bend the rules to suit their own sort of circumstances. So I don't think much is going to change, unfortunately, as much as it would be nice to everyone be able to sit down and put 2020 and whatever's kind of stuck in their craw behind them. But I hope that's the case. But I'm a pessimist for those sort of things, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Ryan, have you heard around the traps whether or not people in the UK or that are just so over this that they don't care, or they're just going to do their own thing at Christmas time anyway? They're just going to get out. Was their lockdowns? We have border control here. Is there sort of those traffic control systems to stop people from leaving, or can people still, get out of town if they want to, albeit breaking the rules?
Yeah, I have heard. I was talking to a friend on the weekend, and they had to go across it's Shires over here, or whatever it is, and basically they had to go 20 minutes, but it meant crossing one to the other, and they actually got stopped, and they had to do it for it was a banking reason or something. It was a reason that was valid to do so they were able to go through. But yes, there was actually cops that stopped and questioned people. Mm-hmm. However, the reality is so many people are going to take the piss out of it. Like if you've got a car, cops can't be everywhere. How many people, you've got to really question yourself. Would you be as a cop, would you go in and break up two families getting together on Christmas Day? Like it's putting some people in some very, very tough positions. So yeah, there's genuinely, I'd say, part of the population that are just done with it, that are kind of over with it. And to an extent, we really need to start to think about, we've got 2021 coming. This is by no way over. In fact, I don't even suspect we're at the halfway point of this whole saga yet. how do we actually get out of it? How do we, because to not try and put a massive dampener on it, but I can tell you what Boris announced yesterday was he basically sentenced a number of people to death in terms of domestic violence, suicide, isolation, loneliness, those kind of things, is all going to spike. It already spikes every year, like working in healthcare in the holiday season. So I feel for them because they're in a lose-lose situation. You don't lock down and you lose. You lock down, you lose. But we've got to start thinking a bit longer term of how this thing's actually going to play out, and where is it going to go, because the vaccine's going to take a very long time, and let alone that doesn't stop infection rates. That only limits the impact of the thing. And truly the only way to get over this is to get through to that 65% of the population or whatnot that have experienced it and are protected against it. So how we do that, I don't know, but it's there's a lot of people over here that are just done. And I can definitely understand why, because I'm kind of at the same point, but albeit, we live quite isolated to begin with, and we don't have family and all that over here. So I luckily don't have to make the decision this year on going, my grandparents don't have many years left. Am I going to, or am I not going to go and see them this Christmas? So I'm grateful not to have to make those decisions there, but there's going to be a lot of people that will find a way around the rules. That there's no doubt about that, unfortunately.
One thing you touch on there, how are you holding up? Like, it's only been 10 hours. Like, the rules are probably still sinking in, the changes are probably still sinking in, but how are you holding up? How do you feel? Do you feel angry? Do you feel jibbed? Do you feel jealous? Like, it might be a bit too soon to even have sort of feelings about it. What's your underlying feeling at the moment?
I don't feel jealous in any sense, because everyone gets whacked with these punches at different times. It's just unlucky, obviously, getting it at Christmas. I feel disappointed and just let down by leaders all around the world, in terms of it's the chopping and changing that is the emotional roller coaster that is exhausting. But if I'm honest, I feel like this year was an absolute exhaustion to begin with. I'm 100% burnt out, especially working in health. You don't get to escape this, working really long hours and all those kind of things. That few days sitting by a fire somewhere else in a different environment, which would have been Cambridge, there was a massive amount hinging on that just to psychologically get through this shit. And that gone, it's got, to answer your question, like, am I angry? Yes, but I'm just more flat and just deflated and just like kind of searching for where's the hope in this. I'm like, we're going to sit in cold, dark January lockdown. Just those few days would have made the world of difference. And to lose that, it's just like, it's literally like being in, and probably like many people have felt during this whole saga, we're in a boxing ring at the moment, just taking punches, and it's just trying to survive how long you can stay in the ring. But this morning felt like it was the end of round 9, and I'd absolutely taken a right hook that put me down for a count of 8 and almost out of the fight. So yeah, I'd be lying if I said that it wasn't absolutely just heartbreaking. Yeah. And it is still sinking in. I think that's the tough part.
I think, it would be really hard. Probably one good trait of you is you always get back up.
Yeah, we'll still be the new day. Round 10 is about to start, so we'll still be in the fight. That's one thing.
Well, it hasn't been a joyous Christmas episode of Daddy Eats Last, but I think that's a good place to wrap it up for this week. Remember to subscribe to Daddy Eats Last on iTunes if you haven't done already. And while you're there, please leave a review. Also, tell your mates about the podcast, especially there, guys. Most of all, thanks for listening and Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. Catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.